excited about 2024, and Dan's going to go into a lot of the great things that we've been working in the background with NH2 Global and what's going to be launching in 2024 and beyond. Some of it is game-changing stuff here with NHD, and it's so incredible and important to be a part of a company that's willing to invest into cutting-edge products, willing to invest into cutting-edge technologies to get better as we move on. And I can't believe it, Dan. We're now in our 23rd year coming up in January. It's like it was yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you and I still look the same, 23 years later.
Thank God for products.
Yes, yes. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan. I know you have a lot of great wisdom. Guys, take notes. Take my advice and take your notes. Use my strategy. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Dan Catto. For those of you who don't know Dan, Dan is actually a legend in this industry. He's been in the industry for 35 years. Dan and I combined have been in the industry for 65 years. And the reason why I'm calling him a legend, because for those 35 years, he has reached the top of 3 companies. Think about that. His legacy of training well over 1 million people around the globe. He's traveled to over 60 countries, which is, in the top 0.0005% of this industry. So Dan is a guy that was my original mentor. Him and I have been business partners for 30 years. Dan, I'm very grateful for our relationship. I'm very grateful for our partnership. It's been an incredible one. I know recently we were interviewed because we're going to be featured in a book coming up in 2024. And the gentleman that was interviewing us basically was recognizing us for our long-term relationship as business partners. And it was very unusual to him. He had not seen a partnership that has flourished this well. So kudos to you, and I'll turn it over to you.
Joey, thanks. Thank you. Thank you for that kind introduction. Again, thanks, Joe. And thanks for everything, bud. Appreciate everything that you have done. And, in our partnership and relationship, we've been good friends, real good friends. It's like family. But it's much more than that. It's everyone that's on this call. And I say especially the ones that have been with us for together. And I say with us, we've been together really as a family, as a partnership, as friends. So many of us that are on the call here, we've traveled around the world together. You and I, with so many, again, that are on this particular call, and it is the English call. We've got 3 other big calls coming up just over the next few days. We've got our Russian markets, that part of the world, which is coming up next week. We've got Japan on the weekend. We've got the Spanish family community and market, which is happening tomorrow. So, I'm saying all of this on this particular call. We have leadership, India that is represented, and it's mostly our English-speaking markets. And it's important that, for me to say this, for Joe and I to both talk about our markets, because it's really who we are. We are a global family. We are on a global mission. We have a global purpose to bring a better quality of life to everyone that we can touch, feel, be with, and just be a part of in terms of their lives. And that's really what we're about. So again, when we do this particular call, and again, to bring in the markets like India, we've got Sarfraz and Zubina that are on here today. All of Europe is on. The former East, which is, I guess now all of Europe, the former Eastern Bloc that you could is on here today. All of the West is on. Germany is represented. France, so much as Sweden. Sweden has become now well over 50% of all of our European business, which is a sign of the tremendous leadership. From Helen to Bia to Cindy, all of the great leadership that we have there, and how all of our leadership did start. going back to Garth and to Thomas, and passing the baton to Dalibor. I'm mentioning these names for some of you or a lot of you that don't know these names. These are legends within our community of our profession, and we honor them. We honor all of these great leaders because that's why Joe and I are here today, is because of who we surround ourselves with. We met the great Andreas, in the United States, here in North America years ago, and he's become a dear, dear friend of ours and is like family as well. Edith, who's up and coming here in the United States, and all the way across to Africa, where we have Dominic and his team that's represented on this call. And there's so many people that I'm not mentioning right now, and I apologize for not bringing up your name, but all of you are here, and we're all here because of each one of us, together as a group, as a team, as a family, and what we represent. It is more than just the products. It's more than just the opportunity. It's the people. The foundation of all great companies, of all great businesses, of all great legacies are based on great people. And Joe and I are blessed in surrounding ourselves with wonderful, great people. And that is at the core and the heart of who we are. So thank you, gang, for just this past year. And thank you for the last 22, 23 years, because we started in 2001. And Garth Wright was one of the very first leaders, people that we connected with in opening up that part of the world that took us into so many other parts of the world. And incredibly, this is how our profession is. We had a relationship with Garth long before this opportunity. So, gang, your future is based on great people. Your future is on who you surround yourself with. And who you surround yourself with is ultimately who you are and who you become. So always remember who you take advice from and who you surround yourself with, from a spiritual side to from a family standpoint, and certainly from a business standpoint. But I wanted to thank all of you for this past year. We're very excited about 24. A lot has happened in our journey in the last 22 years. Um, we've gone through a lot. Every legacy company has gone through a lot. Up, down, left, right, sideways, inside out, good times, bad times, all of it. But every single one of them, those legacy companies, thrived and learned from all of those challenges, obstacles, and problems, and everything that they went through, good and bad. You're really measured by the adversity and the challenges that you'll go through. When you run, they say all ships will carry in a rising tide. You can never be measured on the ride up, because that's easy. That's fun. It's in the tough times. It's in the challenging times. It's the same thing with your family. It's the same thing in anything that you've got in life. It's what you are and who you are. And it develops your character from a leadership standpoint. Part-time, full-time, all-time in the business. Remember, it's long-term and the bigger picture in this business. Never forget it when you're going through those challenging times that you will go through and encounter. We went through that through the pandemic. That was one of the bigger ones, but we got through it. What an incredible story. You know, they have said there's a great book out there. There's a great book out there called The Obstacle is the Way. The Obstacle is the Way. You want to read it. And the obstacle, the way, really the takeaway from that book is that those challenging times will really define your purpose and define you and where you're going. I had a conversation during the pandemic with one of my lawyers about we're having a conversation with him, and he had to get off the phone because he had to go see his 104-year-old mother, and she's 104. I said, oh my, God bless her. And I asked him, with your mom being 104, how is she dealing with the pandemic? And it was interesting what she had said. She says, Dan, my mom, and I found this out. Let me share this with you. She was not only 104. I asked her, is she in a home? Who's with her? She was living on her own in her own house and looking after herself as well as looking after her family. But he said that she had, when, I said how she's dealing with the pandemic, he said, well, she's gone through this before. She'd gone through an epidemic back in the turn of the last century. She went through the First World War, the Second World War, the Vietnam War, the Korean War. She's been through inflation. She's been through deflations. She's been through adversities and challenges and all of it. And he said, we'll get through this as well. And we have. And, I guess, from a pandemic standpoint, a global standpoint, that stuff will always be with us. But great entrepreneurs will always and adapt and adjust to market conditions. Never forget that. It's the same thing with us, and it's the same thing in your journey. As you go along and you going forward with your future, you have to. You won't be on track unless you run into challenges, adversities, and problems, from price increases to someone quitting to someone not showing up at an event, or not someone saying no to the product, or saying no to the opportunity, saying no to you, saying no to your business. Whatever it is, you will encounter that in your business. And the more you encounter it, the more you're on track. If you're not encountering it, you're not on track. That is part of the journey. And always, always remember that. Part-time or full-time. They say you can achieve to be happy, but why not happily achieve? Joe and I have learned to enjoy the process. It is a part of it. We've embraced this journey with, certainly with NHT, but with this profession. And, Joe was sharing with you that we were just interviewed. It'll be coming out in 24. It's a series of books called Legends of the Industry. And a question was asked of me, Dan, what is one of the biggest challenges that our profession and industry goes through? And it didn't take me too long for the answer. It's the biggest challenge that we really have with our profession, our industry, is that people take our profession for granted. That, I find, is the single biggest problem that we have with people that get involved, is they take it for granted. They just don't take it serious enough. And when I look at my journey and what I've gone through, and the other success stories that we have on this call, all of the great leadership that we have in our profession, every single one of them, if you look at why they succeeded in the business, it was because of their why and why they wanted to get to where they wanted to go. That was the single biggest reason, was their purpose, their why they were doing it, part-time or full-time, or all the time. When I got started off in the profession back in 1988, gang, I'm just looking at our time here, and I wanted to respect all of our times, because we've got, Joe, I don't know how many time zones we've got on this particular call. We might have over 20 different time zones. But to share with you, and a lot of you have heard my story, but for you that are new on this call, when I got started 35 years ago in this industry, I didn't know it. I didn't understand it. Multi-level marketing, network marketing. I couldn't spell it. I couldn't spell MLM, frontwards or backwards. I didn't understand it. I didn't know it. I had been in the corporate world for about 10 years in traditional business. I had owned and operated my own business for about 2 years. And it was the spring of 1988, and I lost everything within about 90 days. I had my own personal, as they say, 9/11. Everything imploded. I lost my business. I went into bankruptcy. I owed money to people I didn't know. I was massively six figures in debt. I couldn't go back into the security of corporate. No one, there was no companies I could go with. I just couldn't get a job. I couldn't afford to go back into business for myself. And the pain was so bad. If I could, I would, but I couldn't. There was no one I knew that would help me out or assist me in going back into business for myself. I just wasn't in a position to do it. My wife had left me, so I was going through a divorce. I got pretty sick with a disease called colitis, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. So I spent 2 months in the hospital. I went on government assistance, unemployment insurance here in Canada. That's when I was introduced to the industry. So my belief in myself, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I mean, it didn't matter what I was touching, it was going south. But I was introduced to this opportunity. And there's a quick takeaway I'm going to get to in about 30 seconds here. Is when I was introduced to the opportunity, two things happened, which were key, real key. Number one is I went to an event and I saw the bigger picture, and I saw it gave me belief that there was an opportunity. Number two is I met other people that were just like me or not like me. When I say not like me, they had no sales background, no business background, and I saw these people having success in this industry, in the profession, in the business. So it gave me belief in two things. Number one, that there was an opportunity here. Number two, belief that I could do this. And my sponsor at the time, Doug Forsberg, bringing up his name, I owe a lot to him. Haven't seen him in forever, but he was the guy that sponsored me from the United States, came to Canada, didn't know the guy, wasn't from my country, didn't know this industry. There was a company that was opening up in Canada. Just it had every reason for me not to do it because this didn't make sense. But I connected on two fronts: belief that there was an opportunity. Number two, belief that I could. And he said to me, he said, Dano, you're gonna pass your mentor in this business. My mentor at that time was a guy named Jeff Roberti, who I did a call with for all of you about 3 months ago, who's still a mentor today, but a dear, dear friend today. So that was huge, is that it triggered me in terms of action. Because one was the belief that we can do this, like where you are today in the business. Think about where we are today in the business. Think about what you have in front of you. You've got a 23-year-old company that's done a couple of billion in sales, that is publicly traded on the most scrutinized index stock exchange in the world, has got 50 million cash in the bank, has Nobel Prize winning research products behind it, that is already proven around the world to produce millionaires. And we can say that today because we've done it multiple times in multiple markets around the world. That will provide a luxury home for your family, a luxury car for you, best education in the world, in the United States, for your kids and your grandkids, profit sharing, stock ownership in this company, exotic trips around the world. Think about what you have. Think about it. And this is why I say, and I go back to it, taking it for granted. Now think about this. How hard do you work when you work with, your job? I remember when I got started in this industry, before I got started, for 10 years in the corporate world, I got up when it was dark. I got home when it was dark. 6 days a week. I was in the fashion business. I was in the retail sector of fashion. I ran the largest fashion houses across the country in Canada back in the late 70s and all through the 80s. But I was 6 days a week. So work ethic was not an issue for me. I took that same work ethic and applied it to this. The same work ethic that I had when I had my own business, which went south after 2 years, which was working 8 days a week. I found another day, 26 hours a day, found another 2 hours. I applied it to this. So when you look at 2024, look in the mirror. The biggest reason you will have the most incredible future, because we've got new products coming. We've got AI coming, artificial intelligence that is on steroids in terms of what we're going to introduce in Q1 of next year that is going to help advance, accelerate, support your business. You're going to have tools like you wouldn't friggin' believe that are coming in 24. We have new exotic locations, new trips to go to. We've got Dubai, we've got people in Dubai right now. We got people qualifying for Paris right now. Machu Picchu right now. You got 10, 11 days to qualify for all of it through the IRP and through the incentive programs. Think about what you have in your hands and how how bad do you want it? You know, just think about that. So when I go back to when I applied that work ethic that I had, that commitment, that dedication, that discipline, all of it to this profession, to this business, to this industry, my world changed. It completely changed. I went from, well, a lot of you know my story of where I am living today, and the financial success that I've had and all of the material success. But it is so much more than that. It has made me a much better individual, a much better citizen, a much better person. Spiritually, I'm much more connected today. My God bless my daddy. He'd be so proud of me. I'm the son of a preacher man. My father passed away about 9 years ago. And it was one of the things he pushed on me for the longest time. Son, you got to have a better connection. Well, this profession helps you to become that better person. I have become a better husband. I got remarried, and now I got the wife of my dreams. And on every level, this business, this opportunity, and this profession can raise you to those standards and those levels that you may have never ever thought of before you got involved in this industry. So don't ever take for granted what you have here. And success is really about value, it's about growth, it's about leverage, and it's about scale. And we provide those four things in this journey. Right now, we've just got a few days left for all of you to qualify. If you've already qualified, and I know a lot of you have, because I'll be seeing a lot of you in Paris. If you have already qualified, fantastic. We'll see you there. Some of you are going to Machu Picchu. There's others. I know the Russians are going to be going to Dubai. A lot of you, certainly in Paris. I will see you there. If you've qualified, great. But how many people on your team can qualify? Because the biggest thing, and Joe's going to finish with this in our next 25 minutes in our call here. What is the single biggest thing that you can do in 24 to give you that better year and have the most productive 24 year ever possible is do this in the next 10 days, 11 days. Get qualified. And if you're already qualified, get as many people on your team qualified. Because the events and the incentives, qualifying for an incentive, qualifying for or being at a major event is the single biggest thing that you can do to move the dial in your business. Increase your volume, get you to another rank, and increase your check. Guaranteed, landslide, done. Do that. I guarantee you, your volume will go up, you'll hit the next rank, and your checks will go. So, just in wrapping up here, gang, 24, the single biggest reason you will have the great, great future that you're looking for in 24, the biggest reason is you. Don't take this incredible, incredible opportunity for granted. And we'll see you all real soon. Thanks for 23. We'll see you in 24. Joey, over to you. See you guys.
Awesome stuff, Dano. Awesome stuff. Dan was talking about with this AI technology. We've talked about it throughout 2023. For those of you who don't know, in 2001, NHT revolutionized network marketing with our back office e-commerce system. Actually, we were one of the first companies in the e-commerce space to actually track volume and have real-time orders online. If you wanted to become a distributor of a company, or if you wanted to join a company or whatever, you had to sign an application, fax an application in, et cetera, et cetera. So it was revolutionary. So we built that platform from scratch, and it's a platform that we've been using. It changed a little bit about 5 years ago when we improved it. But though that platform was basically built on 22 years ago technology. So it was very limited to get to the new tools and development. It took a lot of programming, et cetera. So it was very limited. So about 18 months ago, NHT decided that, which was a big move, to invest several $1 million into this new platform, which will have a simpler ordering process to 2024 standards. It will be able to be, with any new technology in the future, we're going to be able to pivot very quickly. Mobile technology is all built in it, so it'll come with an app that will come into the second phase. So bottom line, it's just going to be an incredible technology that will improve as it goes on, and will be on the cutting edge in this industry from a e-commerce point of view and tracking your business. You're going to be able to do so much more. The challenge is we're going to have to teach people how to use it over when we launch the first phase, et cetera, et cetera. But it's I'm really excited about it. So what I wanted to talk about, the last 3 years, Dan and I have done this training, and I would recommend, if you go on Steam Team on the homepage there, the last 2, you can go over those recordings. I've actually covered daily disciplines, the 5 top things that you need to do to develop your business. You know, these are real important to really help you advance your business. But in 2024, what I wanted to talk about is how to perfect your business plan. You know, one of the major struggles that people have is, how do I run this business? What do I need to do? You know, how do I get results? So I'm going to go over this real quickly over the next 30 minutes, and I'm going to walk you through, you know, my 30 years and those defining moments of what I needed to do to get the results I got. So keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago had a great article on Americans, and it stated that over 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. From my experience globally, think about that, 60%. Probably the statistics are the same here in Canada, same in Western Europe. And if you're looking at the emerging markets, those stats are probably closer to 90%. So in the Western world, you're looking at every 6 people out of 10 that you're going to be talking to desperately needs a business like NHT Global. 6 out of 10 that are struggling financially. If you're in India, if you're in South America, if you're in Eastern Europe, other parts of Asia, you're looking at closer to 8 or 9 people out of 10 that desperately need our business for extra income. The article also did indicate that no time in the history, okay, we're living in the most abundant times this world has ever seen, dating back to all the way back to the birth of Jesus Christ, the most abundant times ever. But still today, majority of the world is struggling from paycheck to paycheck. Is struggling to make ends meet. Is struggling to put money on the table. So my question always to myself is, how can I reach out to those people? Because I have a gift. I have a gift in NHT that have changed numerous thousands of people's lives all over the world. I've seen it the last 23 years. It's changed my life. You know, Dan Gatto went over what it's done for him. But why don't we go and share the product and share the business enough times where we're going to get the results? That's a really major question. So I'm going to cover a couple of things regards to that in my process. So when I got started, there was 4 major things that changed my life, that I implemented into my life in my early 30s when I got started as an entrepreneur. The first thing, as Don talked about it, was the dream. I knew exactly what I wanted in life. And those of you have seen my trainings over the years and my communication with you, I just drumbeat the dream over and over and over and over again. It still bothers me today that no matter how many times I've talked about it, still 5 to 10% of people determine what their dream is. Determine what their dream is. Why don't people do that? we logically understand that that's the secret to life. If you go on my website, yjoegarcia.com, read my book, Your Best Year Ever. I put a plan together there, which I would recommend you read. It's a 15-minute read. It's in multiple languages. I put a plan together that will enable you to manifest your best life if you just implement those strategies. But why don't people write down their dream? Comes to the second part, is of the beliefs that we have about ourselves. So in our mind, because of the programming that we've had since we were in our mother's womb, and I had that programming too. Dan had that programming. Can I really do this? Am I worthy? Can I do what Dan and Joe has done? Can I be successful? Do I have the skill sets and the work ethic to do this? Am I disciplined enough? So all this negative talk that we have in our brain on a consistent basis. And again, if 2023 wasn't the year that you expected to be financially, this is an area that you need to spend some time with. You got to really define your dream, because you're not working hard enough because your dream is not defined. You're not wanting it hard enough because your dream is not defined. You don't want it enough because you have these beliefs about yourself that you're not worthy, these limited beliefs that stop you at every corner. You take 2 steps, you take 3 steps backwards, and you've been consistently living that way for years. And so we get in a pattern of thinking that allows us not to achieve what our God-given right is prosperity and abundance. So the second thing I implemented is I created the discipline. That discipline, this is something I learned from my dad. He was the most disciplined man I've ever known. You know, my dad at the age of 50 acquired diabetes, type 2 diabetes. He actually beat diabetes with a disciplined regime every day of eating the right foods and exercising the right time. I can remember with my dad, we're traveling in Europe, and my dad was so disciplined that he had to eat multiple times daily at a certain time. And one of those times was 5 p.m. And he had told me, Joe, meet me back here at 4:30, and so we can go home so I can eat. And I got there at 10 to 5. And he was so angry at me that I did not respect his wishes and his discipline, you know, and I thought it was crazy, you know, why 10 minutes made a difference. It did make a difference. That's how we beat diabetes, with this discipline. So I disciplined myself thanks to Dan. You know, Dan had the famous saying, instead of listening to Madonna and Michael Jackson, I started listening to Jim Rohn and Bob Proctor, Anthony Robbins, et cetera, et cetera. So I had the discipline to work on myself every day for an hour a day so I can overcome my limited beliefs, so I can grow the awareness that I'm able to grow into leadership and overcome those limited beliefs, because those limited beliefs are always going to be there. They've been programmed into us. We are like computers. What we program into a computer is what spits out. The new back office that we're launching next year, it's been programmed to do certain things. We are the same way. Until you get the awareness that this discipline of an hour a day, your 2024 will not change. I can guarantee you. I'll tell you, earlier last year, I started getting frustrated with my fitness, because I noticed over the last 2 or 3 years, despite working out an hour a day, I wasn't seeing massive changes. I wasn't seeing the changes that I wanted in my body, in my health. And it was amazing. In June, I took some blood tests, and they were good, but they weren't excellent. And so I said to myself, look, I'm gaining the same results. My body is getting used to my workout regime, so I'm still staying level. So how do I improve it by 5%? How do I improve it by 10%? How do I improve it by 15%? So what I started doing is I started exercising 10 more minutes, doing 20 more reps. steps, my weight training. That two changes in my discipline on a daily basis dramatically changed me in the 90 days. I redid my blood tests, and they were excellent. They were of a 25-year-old man. You know, my doctor was so impressed that I was able to make those changes. And all I did was change one little thing in my regime. Again, that's awareness. How did I get to that awareness? Is by working on myself every single day. The other thing I would recommend is when you ask yourself questions, like a good, powerful question is, what is the belief that I have right now, or beliefs that I have right now that are holding me back? And when you ask yourself questions, there's a part of your brain called the RAS system. So I'll give you an example of how that works. In 2022, I bought a brand new Lexus sports car. It had black and white interior, which I chose myself. Only one in Canada. I think I was the second or third one in North America. And I got this blue color that Lexus just launched. And the salesperson that I've been dealing with for 20 years, that's part of my loyalty. He's been treating me right. And, you know, I've gotten several cars from him. And he said, Joe, this is the only one in Canada. Okay? And I believed him, and he believed himself. But as soon as I took it on the highway, I saw one of them. And I thought, how is this possible? That car was always there. I probably noticed it before, but it never triggered because I wasn't looking for it. It's the RAS system. So when you ask questions, this is why repetition is a mother skill. This is why I've shared with you my method of note-taking, my method of repeat, rinse and repeat. You know, for example, in 1998, I got to a level of personal development and I couldn't see any more growth. Every book started sounding the same. You should see my library of books that I have that I started in the 90s. I've got thousands of books. I've read all of them. And audios, tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours. I used to go to the library, tape these audios, you know, and back then, for those of you who know audio tapes, put it in my Walkman and listen to it over and over and over again. You know, in 1998, I got to the awareness, well, this is not working for me anymore. How can I get to the next step? So I wasn't triggering my RAS system. So the power is in the focus. How did I start to learn that there were other cars the same as mine, other sports cars the same as mine? Because the focus, it triggered my RAS system. So focus is critical to success. Too many of us are living in distractions, constant distractions that are pulling us away, scrolling. Just go watch people online. Watch people in your everyday things that you do, and you'll see that they're scrolling on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. They're spending most of their day scrolling. It's a habit that most of us have that are hurting our focus of success, hurting our discipline of success, hurting us from getting the results that we want. So your RS system, the focus. So by me studying the material, so what I did is when I got a book that resonated with me, what did I do? I read it over and over and over again until it got into my subconscious. So it triggered my RAS system so I could implement the strategies that got me results. Okay, so 3 in my business plan was commitment. So this is a very emotional part of myself. My dad was the most committed guy in the world to his friends and family and most loyal. I saw the results that he had. He worked for the town of Oakville, the town that we live in. He had probably helped hire, 30, 40, 50 of his friends and family in jobs. He worked as a union rep, major union rep, because he cared about people because it's commitment and loyalty to people. So commitment is the only power that we have as a human beings. When you are committed and focused, you're going to be unstoppable with your dream. So what does commitment look to you? You know, I can honestly tell all of you that I've never quit on anybody in my life. I never even think of quitting on Dan in our partnership. I never allowed myself to get to that point because I knew my word was the only power that we had. My dad was telling me, I can remember when I was a child and he was lending money to his friends and family. And I asked my dad, well, why don't you have that on paper, get them to sign a contract or agreement? My dad said, I know that they will pay me back because they gave me their word. We have lost that, 35, 40, 45 years later in our society. You lend some money to people, you got to actually, even if they give you your word, you got to actually have them sign a contract, an agreement that they're going to pay you back. Because people have lost their word, and their word to themselves is the most important. So when I started, I made a commitment that I would never quit. I made a commitment to improve every day. I made a commitment to share the product and business every day. That discipline of commitment got me the results. Short term, long term, medium term. So the fourth thing that I did is I went into action. Okay, so think about it. I had the dream. I fell in love with the dream. I nourished my dream every day. I gave it a hug every day. Second thing I did is I was loyal to that dream. And I developed some disciplines like feeding my mind every day. Think about our pets. You know that human beings treat pets better than they do themselves. They go and get the best food. They make sure they're walking them every day. But when it comes to ourselves, and that comes back to the self-worth and self-belief, we don't do it. So in my business plan now, which is the fourth thing, is the action. Okay, you got to tell your God, the universe, that you are serious about your dream. You're serious about changing your life. You're serious about working on yourself because you already know everything there is to know when you start doing what I'm sharing with you. And when you create a business plan, so here's what I did, is I took my calendar from Sunday to Sunday. So for those of you who understand me, is commitment and loyalty is two of my greatest attributes, two of my greatest assets, two of my greatest values in life. So I was committed to my family, but it also, as a high achiever, it created a lot of conflict. So how do I manage that conflict? Because my goal was to work from home because I wanted to spend my time with my kids and my future kids. I wanted to be that dad who was there for them 24/7. I wanted to be that dad that was at their volunteering at their school. So how did I materialize that in my life? Is by Sunday to Sunday, I created a schedule and I treated my business, like Dan said, I treated my business like a job in terms of time. So I would lock in my schedule and my planner, which I still use today, the times where I was going to work the business, the times that I was going to spend time focused on my family. Okay, so that was very hard for me because I flourish in being spontaneous. I flourish in thinking that way and just getting things done and just doing what I needed to do. But I needed to plan my schedule. So when I looked at my schedule, I said, oh my God, I am committed. I am loyal. I didn't have those guilty feelings rushing to me that I was spending so much time in the business. I made commitments when I started traveling globally to my family, and I stuck to those commitments. Was it hard? No. You know what hard is? You know what hard is? Is 60% of the families in the United States and Canada and Europe are spending money that they don't have because they're living pay to paycheck to have an incredible Christmas. So they're spending on their credit card, not cash, credit card. And then January, February, what are they doing? Well, they're worried about money because they don't have the money to pay for their credit card. So right now we're getting paid 6%, 5%, 4% on interest, which is fantastic compared to what we've been used to the last 20 years. But we're paying 20% on interest on credit cards, 28% on some credit cards. So people are, so in that respect, we can change people's lives by doing those disciplines that I've shared with you here. And you need to have in your business plan where you're going to have, how many people are you going to share the product with every day? How many people are you going to share the business of every day? NHT is helping us with these new tools so we can help people see the bigger picture. Okay, so what I would do now, you go back on Steam Team and watch trainings like Contact and Inviting, which I'm going to be updating in the new year, and learning how to contact and invite. So here's what you need to do in your business plan. There is the aspect of how do I improve myself and improve my skill set. So the skill sets that you need to develop, 90% of it is in your dream and in your mind and your limited beliefs. Now the skill sets in the business. You need to learn how to contact and invite effectively. Okay, by listening to that training or by practicing with your sponsor, and they can help you with that. Second skill set that you need to do is how to share the product in the business. So we have tools like ynht.com, yrbiz.com, even the training sites, teamteam.ca, that will help people so you can present the video to them, watch the business presentation. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. How do I share the product? Again, using the tools. We don't want to be the doctor. We don't want to spend an hour or 2 hours with our customers. What we want to do is want to present them with a video or a training that they can watch and learn, and then you follow up always within 24 hours. Next step is how to follow up. Okay, these are the simple disciplines that I had to learn in my first year, and I knew that these were skills which were critical to my long-term success. So how do we follow up? Fast and furious. Within 24 hours, never let it go more than 24 hours. And most people, 99% of people don't do that because of their limited beliefs. You got to understand what I shared in the beginning. 80% of people that will watch this today in 2 days, 80% of the information you watch today, in 2 days, you're going to lose. It's the forgetting curve. There is a learning curve, but there's also a forgetting curve. So that's a skill set that's critical in developing your business is follow up. I'm constantly following up with people around the globe. I never let it go for more than 24 hours because I understand the squeaky wheel always gets the most attention. Okay, then now you go into sales skills, communication skills. You know, these are, and how you improve those skills is by just doing it over and over again. Public speaking skills. That's one area that I didn't want to do because of my limited beliefs. You know, I saw Mr. Catto as this great presenter, great speaker. He came out of the womb like that. And due to some situations I had in high school, for example, I carried these limited beliefs as an adult. So that's an area that I needed to practice. I overcame my fears, you know, by just doing it, and didn't care what other people thought of my presentation, whatever. I just did it because I knew by doing it, I would get there, I would improve, I would get better, et cetera, because I started changing my limited beliefs about myself in that area. So these are the skill sets that I broke down that I was very cognizant of developing those on a consistent basis. So that was part of my business plan. So the last thing I want to share with you, and then I talked about it, is and I'm thinking back when I got started, and I thought about how many people do I need to talk to get to my goals, to get to my dream. And most people that come into network marketing, granted, the masses don't have the experience as entrepreneurs. Most people are lied to in terms of how much they need to do and how much work they have to be spent in this area. But ultimately, guys, and this is reality, and this is really important. Okay, for those of you who are not qualifying for Machu Picchu in 2 weeks, I got to speak in terms of reality. For those of you who are not qualifying for Paris, it's because you have not done enough in those areas that I've shared with you, and you have not spoken to enough people. That's really the fact. And I think entrepreneurs fool themselves into expectations in terms of results and managing the results over time. So here's kind of a guideline. You are in a hobby if you spoke to less than 100 people in 2023. It's really a hobby. Okay, just think about it. If you had a restaurant or any kind of business and you marketed it to less than 100 people, you think that restaurant's going to be successful, no matter how great your food is. To be a winner in the business, to qualify for promotions, to move up in rank, you're going to need to get into at least one person a day. 365 people for the year. One person a day. Is that easy to do? Yes. Is an hour a day personal development? Is it easy to do? Yes. Studying the material over and over again, is it easy to do? Yes. But as I shared with you, what's hard is people all day long, right now, they're buying all these things for Christmas gifts because they want their family to have the best ever. But come January, February, they're now in depression. By the time they do anything about it, March comes along and a quarter of the year is done. Don't be those people. We need to help these people understand just those simple disciplines repeated over time will get you the results. So one person a day, just sharing the product. How long does that take? It probably takes, okay, so if you're watching 20 reels a day, I think the average now on the internet and these apps is the average, I think I saw it a few weeks ago, but it's around 30 reels that people are watching. Think about that. The average reel is a minute and a half. So they're spending 45 minutes a day on reels that are not improving their life. It's just something to do because we're just got in a habit to do these things. One person a day takes how long? You can do it in under 5 minutes. Hey, John, I just got started an incredible e-commerce global business model. They're 22 years old, 23 years old. And business people like you have been doubling and tripling their income over the next 2, 3, 4 years. If you're open, just let me know. Taking a look. I'll send you over a video. How long did that take me? 30 seconds. That pitch works most of the time because most business people are struggling to make more money. Their whole focus is making more money. That's why they became an entrepreneur. So that bypasses the sales filter and gets them in. How many times can you say, I work with a group of doctors to develop the world's first 30-minute non-surgical facelift. Am I launching here in my market? You know how many women would get excited listening to that? Because what are women's top values, especially when they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s and beyond? Is to stay looking good. Easy to do. 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your day. So by planning your day, so what I do is I take a section of my day, I've been doing it since 1993, where I am just reaching out to people to see if they're open to taking a look. And I can do that within an hour and a half, and I can find several people very quickly doing that. So the business, if you're serious about the business, reality is, and get your goals, is get just to one person a day. Easy to do. There is no other business. Because here's what's going to happen when you do all the other things, is you may come across a leader, and you eventually will, that says yes, and they start doing what you're doing, and they explode. One leader can do more than 10,000 people. In the NHD comp plan, you just need one and a second one. You have two leaders on each side that are doing what you do, that are all in. You are ranking up in the system. You're making some serious dollars in NHT. Your business is going to be growing on a considerable rate just by finding and attracting those two people. And the disciplines that I've shared with you today, my exact business plan that I've shared with you today, works, ladies and gentlemen, because it's worked for me. Why not you? So moving forward into 2024, I hope this advice really gives you some hope by just implementing it. Here's the challenge: is your inner talk is going to stop you from doing it. You know, think back to the story I shared with my dad. I was 20 minutes late. And in his mind, he needed to eat at that time because it was giving him the results, life-changing results, overcome that disease. It wasn't 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, 50 minutes later. It wasn't 5 minutes before. It was that routine that he developed that got him the results. Earlier this year with my body, it was that extra 10, one person more, one person idea more, that 10 minutes extra more, that 20 extra reps that took my body to the next level. It's really that simple. So the key to success, and this is really important, guys, is just duplicate the people that are getting the results. You know, what are they doing with their mindset? I've shared that with you here today. What are they doing in terms of talking to people every day? What is their business plan regarding that? How are they improving themselves with their skills? Do they have a hack? And just duplicate what they do. How are they overcoming their limited beliefs, which holds them back? And by doing those things long term, over time, you're going to have the results that you're looking for. Here's the thing: what happens is we get into a rut where we have this explosion of results, and then we go back to the old thinking. And what ends up happening, we stop doing those things. And then what happens is we realize 6 months later, oh my God, my check has dropped 80%. And then you start to realize it's because I stopped doing the things that got me there. Believe me, the universe, this perfect universe that God has created, is full of these rules that you cannot bend, you cannot change yourself. It's there, implemented in society, in our universe, that you cannot change. And it'll catch up to you. And why? Is think about, a lot of people tell me, Joe, this business is really hard. You know what's really hard? I just shared with you, not having the money to buy your son a gift or your grandkid. You know what's really hard is going to the store and looking at labels, okay? Because you love that outfit, and now you're saying, am I worthy to pay that price? Can I really afford this? You know what's hard is going to a restaurant and looking on a menu and choosing the cheapest thing on the menu. You know, my first date with Margaret, I took her to where I was working, which was a restaurant, really hot restaurant here locally, quite pricey. And I only had limited amount of cash. So I went and looked at the menu, and I thought, oh my God, because I never looked at it before, because before when I would work, I'd get the food for free. And I had to buy a Caesar salad. And I was hoping that she would order the same thing, because that's all I could afford on my first date. And it wasn't enough. I had to go into the the kitchen and ask the chef, and for $20 to borrow so I could pay for the bill. That is really hard, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to live like that. You know what's really hard? I've got some relatives working in construction that are waking up at 4:30 in the morning to work. And now here in the Toronto area, it's 5. We've had some really good weather here in December, but it's getting cold. And they're still working in the cold. I have some friends in Florida that I've met recently that are working construction, and they're in the summertime, they're working in 100-degree weather, 40%, 40 Celsius weather. That is hard. I have friends that I went to high school that are working in mines, that they're sending them down in northern Canada, miles down, and they're working all day long for a paycheck to support their family. Nothing wrong with that. That's really, really, really hard. You know what was hard to me? Okay, so, and this is actually really emotional and I'll end up with this, is when Margaret and I, when I first got started in the industry, we had a baby. That was Vanessa. Okay, so I was working from home. She was, she had a job in the life insurance industry, a very good job. So she, at that time in Canada, right now it's 1 year maternity leave, and you can get up to 18 months. Can you think about that? That's incredible. I know in Europe it's very similar. And the first day back at work, okay, 9 months, I think it was about 9 months, she's going back to work. And I'm dropping her off at her work, and she starts to cry. That, it's emotional to me because it drove me. She started to cry that she had to go to work. And I promised myself that that was never going to happen again. I promised myself I was going to make it happen. That drove me. My dream drove me. That just took it to the next level. And sure enough, I retired her because, and that was a defining moment in my life where she was crying because we had to take our kids. I was looking after my kids in the morning, and then I would take them. We were lucky because my mother-in-law was still alive and my mother, and they were looking after her. But that was a defining moment. That drove me. That was hard. It was the hardest thing I had to go through because it defined me as a man, that I was not living up to my promises to her. Because I had these promises to myself. I never told her, but I had these promises to myself. That is hard, ladies and gentlemen. I made a decision not to have a hard life, not to go through those things. Because what happens is we get addicted to struggle, and the struggle continues on over and over and becomes a habit, and we cannot get away from that loop. So I'm hoping today that part of what Dan and I have shared here today inspires you in 2024 to make a difference in your life. Just one step at a time, and develop these disciplines, change them a little bit, get the awareness, reach out to us, we can help. And great things are going to happen to you. You know why I know that? Because it's happened to me. I'm not a special guy. I'm not this blessed guy from God that said, Joe, I'm going to bless you, only you in this world. I'm going to bless Dan and a few others. No, I saw from the beginning that I was made of God, and I can accomplish anything that I put my mind to it. It's just those simple disciplines. So 2024, guys, I end my portion. I'm going to bring it back to Dan here just for a quick sec to end. Is we are, and you haven't noticed yet, in the last 23 years, you will never find more committed leaders than Dan and I. We could have left and 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and just live off our money, but we have a vision. I want to invite all of you to buy into this vision where we want to pass our incomes and our business to our kids and grandkids. Guys, that is starting to happen. 23 years later, we have a lot of leaders over the last number of years that have passed away. around the world that got up there in age, and now their kids have taken over. You know, I was speaking to one of our Chinese leaders. His mother passed away a few years ago, and he's got a major IT business in Boston, and he's still living off the residuals of what his mother built here with NHT. You know, that was incredible, you know, hearing that story. So, Dan, incredible call. Any last words from yourself?
Joey, can you hear me okay?
Yes. So
All righty.
one of the things that I haven't covered, and for those of you who, and we haven't covered, is our launch of Colombia. So,
Go ahead.
So as most of you know, and some of you that are new here, is, you know, our dream from the beginning was to be in every corner of this world. You know, Dan, your vision from the beginning. You remember in May 2001, our first event in Las Vegas, and you had shared to everybody that we want, in the next 20, 30 years, we're going to want to be in every continent of the world. So you explain it, every town, village, province, state, country, and continent of the world.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every hub.
It was just a dream. And 23 years later,
Yeah.
you know, thanks to guys like Garth and Thomas who traveled all over Europe and Eastern Europe, and the travels that we've had globally, you know, and continue to do that. So during the pandemic, we had a number of countries that we were going to launch before the pandemic. That didn't happen because of the pandemic. So Colombia was on that list. And here in the first quarter of 2024, we're going to be launching Colombia, which is going to be our third market that we have officially launched in Latin America. We have products approved. We got a license, banking, everything's done now. Now what's left is the company is just programming the gateway and the payment gateway into our system. So Colombia is another huge market that we're excited about launching and further expanding our reach here with NHT Global.
Yeah. I think you and I could go for another few days here. And, you know, for a lot of us that are on this call, so many of our leaders, and I see all of your beautiful faces. Thank God for these products, huh, gang? I mean, I can see so many of you, and it's great to see you. But it's something I'd heard you say, Joey. Great job, bud. You know what? I heard some stories today, and I think for a lot of you, you may have heard some stories from Joe that you may have not heard before. Joe, I heard some today that I had not heard before. But they have said that facts tell, stories sell. And it's the emotional part of our business that we become so attached to, and really what we become a part of. So it's these real stories, Garth's story, Thomas's, Dal's, Helen's, you know, Dominic, Zambia, to Andreas, all of our great leaders from B's story, and you know, Cindy, your stories, all of these stories, which are so genuine, so real, are why we're here. So again, thank you all for 23. 24 looks unbelievable. They've always said too that, well, particularly here with what we have, is for the most part, everyone really does. People know what to do. Will they do what they know? So, will you do what you know? You've got a few more days here to get qualified. Meet you, beat you, Paris, whatever you're going to be qualified for, an incentive in the IRP. I'll be seeing you people, the group that's going to be qualifying for Paris. But I can't wait to see all of you again in 24. It's been a great call. Been a wonderful year, and 24 is going to be even better. So thanks, everyone. Happy holidays. Big Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. A happy post Diwali for all of our Indian friends out there. And for all other faiths that I'm not connecting with, we are connecting certainly with you. We love you all, and it's just been a great year. We'll talk to you all in 24.
A big hug to all of you, and you're all in our prayers come Christmas time and Hanukkah time and holidays. And let's make 2024 best year ever.
Absolutely. Ciao, ciao, everybody. See y'all. Bye bye.
Thanks, Dan and Joe. Great call.
Thank you, Garth.